up, Speed Ass Garage? Welcome back to the channel. If you missed the progress that I've been making on the Nissan 240, check that out up here in the right or left hand corner. It's a few episodes. It's a series where I built my stock bottom end 6.0 LQ9 motor out of an Escalade here at the garage. But now we're to the point where we're ready to put the motor back into the Nissan and go ahead and start slapping everything together. This is how far we've come. Everything bolted up. I dropped the motor in. I didn't want to bore you guys with that because you see me pull it out. It's just as simple as putting it back in. But let's do an update of everything that we got going on before we start this motor in this episode. First things first, I got a new radiator. I replaced a traditional 240SX radiator with this updated Koyo radiator. This radiator is a dual pass. So here's the original radiator that came out. There wasn't anything wrong with it, but having an LS powered car in a small chassis like a Nissan 240, heat is always the issue. You need to upgrade your fans. You need to upgrade your radiator. I upgraded my fans, but I never upgraded my radiator. But this is a prime example of the original setup. This setup will work with a 2.4 to 4-cylinder, but it's not quite good enough for the V8. You can see it's got an inlet and then it's got an outlet, or vice versa. The coolant comes in, it goes across this chamber, and then it crosses all of these fins, cools it off only one time, and then it exits out the bottom. With the Koyo, I'll put a picture up here somewhere and try to explain it, but like I said, it comes in, goes across the fins, it goes down the opposite side of the tank, it comes back across, and then it exits out. This is a significant upgrade for a V8 powered 240SX. The fans are the fans that I already had. These fans are, to be honest with you, these fans are like the best fans on the market. My original setup, I want to say I had the Flexolite 220s or the 440s. I forget which ones they were, but they only flow like, I want to say like 1800 CFMs or 2400 CFMs, whatever it was weak. It was adequate for something like my RB that I had. It was good enough for SR or KA, but it won't quite up to task for a V8, especially with all the extra heat that's generated from the Turbski. But these here, and these jokers flow 4,000 CFMs. I mean, these things flow so much CFMs that it's a must-have for a 30 amp fuse, and it's a must-have for a 40 amp plus relay. So I think with the combination of this Koyo and the Doral fans, we shouldn't have any more cooling issues. I took out the cooler thermostat, which you can't see. I put back in the 186 degree thermostat. I think we're gonna try that out since it is getting warmer. I had to refabricate the fan shroud. I'm in such a tight crunch that I didn't document it. It was some good footage. I had to do some aluminum welding, but once again, I put an image up here so that you can see what all it took to get this radiator like I want it. But make a long story short, oh, somebody's at my house. Make a long story short, I had to kind of cap off all the corners of the radiator fan shroud. One of the reasons I had to make me a little spot for my coolant, not coolant overflow, but the coolant breathers from the daggone crossover tubes that go up on the intake manifold. And then of course I had to make it work with my upper and lower in and out of the radiator. Since the radiator inlet is kind of far off to the left now, my original radiator hose wouldn't fit. So let me show you the radiator hose I purchased in case you need to get this situated. This is the radiator hose that I picked. It's a Napa brand hose, part number 7559. And what I'm gonna attempt to do is trim it. It's kind of hard to tell, but basically it almost looks like the super upper radiator hose. And then also decided that this time around, I don't want to run these to the heater core. So I got this hose here, also from Napa, part number 10743. And the cool thing about this is if you got an LS, you know that this nipple this nipple here is smaller than this one here. And if you look at it, it might be hard to tell, but this nipple here is bigger than the one on the top. So let's go ahead and trim these hoses down, go ahead and install those, and then we can go to the next step of trying to get this thing started. So let me show you the next item that we're gonna be installing, a new item to me and a new item for our project. What we have here is the FTI, or B&M makes the same deal, transmission oil pan. This is a little bit deeper oil pan. It actually holds an extra 3 quarts as far as transmission fluid capacity. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna help with keeping the transmission cool. And then as you can tell, it's also got these integrated fins as well. So, you know, the air going up underneath the car, go across these fins. It's another extra way of cooling the transmission fluid. As you can tell, this kit comes with a gasket. It's kind of like slippery. I like the material. Don't know whether we're gonna use it or not. Comes with hardware. I'm not a big fan of Allen hardware. I may or may not use it. Washers. And then I'm not sure what this is, but if I were to take a wild guess, I would assume that this is something that extends the transmission filter. I mean, obviously this pan is a little bit thicker than the original pan, meaning that, you know, if the filter sit up here, I don't know. I gotta find the instructions and we'll see exactly what this is, but I'm sure that's what it is. And I'm sure this is like some kind of, I mean, it look like a holding bracket, but I mean, it don't look strong. And then what we have here is another gasket made by Lube Locker. This gasket is definitely nicer than the one that comes with it. Whether or not it's necessary, I'm not sure. Be honest with you, I shouldn't even bought it, but since I bought it, I'm probably gonna use this over using that, just because this mug is nice and it's got like this material that's real smooth and it's got these veins in it and stuff. It looked like this, almost like a head gasket where it's got like a 3-ply, but instead of being a 3-ply, it's like 3 lines of ply. So I gotta go pick my wife up real quick. When we get back, we're gonna install this pan into the LQ9 turbocharged. We're gonna install it. Check you in a minute. That's the finished product. Didn't go together too terrible. Just had to make an adjustment to my shifter linkage. But we looking good, looking good. But I am concerned about my ground clearance. That thing does sit way lower than my oil pan, so don't know how I feel about it. Don't know if I want to keep it permanent or not. But I guess I can double check as soon as it get on the ground, man. We can see exactly how tall off the ground it is. I don't know how I feel about that. So the last piece of the puzzle before we can put fluids in this thing, prime the oil system and fire it up, is I got to install my 3.5-inch drive shaft. Normally people do 3-inch on stuff like this, but I went a step further, did 3.5, and then also used aluminum. Aluminum is not as strong as steel, so I could have probably got away with a 3, but with the aluminum thicker wall on this stuff, and then being a little bit bigger, being a 3.5, I don't think we're gonna have any problems with this deal here. There's a few things we need to do before we start this vehicle up or start this motor up for the first time. We need to make sure that our oil filter is full of oil before we install it. We need to top our 6.0 off with some basic oil for break-in. And also, I opted out to try some of this Lucas Oil Products Incorporated. This here is their TB Zinc Plus. This is a recommended additive for oil and break-ins. And from all of my research, you want to look for something that has some ZDDP. Try to say that 5 times twice. Make sure we shake this stuff up pretty good. And the direction says that they want us to add 1 bottle upon initial break-in. Now we need to install our ATF transmission fluid. Since I got a 4080, I decided to get this universal dipstick for a 4080. And I kind of like it. It's got like a stainless wire, as you can tell, got a little weight to it. And then it's got like a lead piece at the bottom. It is kind of hard or somewhat difficult to read that. And another thing that's pretty difficult is look how small that orifice is. When you buy one of these, it comes with like a little aluminum adapter. And as you can see, I took in that adapter and I've actually necked it down 2 times with 2 different hoses. And of course, I got this tremendously long funnel. This is gonna take a while. And B&M wants us to top this transmission off with 6 quarts to start off with. This is my oil, by the way. This is ATF. All right, guys, we got oil in the motor. We got oil in the transmission. I got all of the spark plugs unplugged. I got the fuel pump in the rear disconnected. All of this stuff right here, as far as the coil packs are connected, but they're not doing anything because I got them hanging down. So now we're to the point where we're ready to load up the computer or the laptop to monitor our oil pressure. This is the point of the build where we need to make sure we get oil pressure without the motor starting. That's the purpose of having all that assembly lube and all those movable components. So I got my computer hooked up. I also got the oil feed line disconnected. It ran to this little bucket here, so I can also do like a visual monitor. But we're ready. We're ready to turn this thing over. And we got our laptop live. The way I usually test it, check the TPS. And it's not connected. All right, it should be online now. Yep, so now we're ready. All right, let's see how smooth this works. Hopefully I got everything as far as my starter hooked up right. Let's go for it. I forgot to hook the battery power wire to the starter. Take 2. No oil pressure yet. It's taking a little bit of time, but that's our oil pressure. There we go. Now we're getting some oil pressure. This is our line going to this bucket. So now we can go ahead and hook this back up to the turbo. Now we can go ahead and hook up, go ahead and install our spark plugs. And then we can go ahead and reconnect the exhaust, hook up stuff like our O2 sensors, and hook our fuel pump up. And then we'll be ready to fire this mug up, check it for leaks real quick, because we can't leave it running for too long. And then we can, well, we really can't take it for a test drive, but then we can break it in however I decide to do that, because I do need an alignment. All right, guys, I got all of my coil packs plugged up, all my spark plugs installed, with the spark plug wires installed as well. Got the upper down pipe on with the loud valve. Got both my O2 sensors. One of them's for the Holly, the other one's for the AEM, just wideband I got in a little gauge cluster. I am gonna have to remodify the bottom portion of the exhaust since I got that bigger B&M or FTI, whatever daggone transmission pan I got. I'm gonna have to modify that daggone downpipe again. So we're gonna fire it up, or we're gonna attempt to fire it up. We got oil pressure. All I gotta do is plug up the fuel, make sure it primes, fire in the hole. we got the car all put together. We got oil, we got coolant in it, and now we're ready to take it for a test drive. This will be my second test drive. The first one didn't go so well. My daggone fan fuses kept blowing on the Doral fans. I ended up upgrading them to 40 amp fuses. I didn't have that problem before. And then also my car was running terrible on the first drive. It first started up, it idled good. And then after driving for a little bit, it went terrible. I noticed that my AFRs were stuck on 35 point whatever. And coming to do research on the internet, going on some of the Facebook Holly pages, and also talking to my boy Josh over at Underground Racing, we both agreed that we needed to probably start with the O2 sensor for Holly. A lot of people don't probably know, but this wideband oxygen sensor is used on quite a bit of OEM vehicles. But if you do need another sensor, that's the part number 17212. Got it from AutoZone, to be honest with you. I don't never shop at AutoZone, but they had the cheapest price, and it ended up being like $64.99. So I got this thing idling. I wanted to wait till the fans come on, which they did. Let's see if it acts a little better on this test drive. And something that never happens before, you just heard the fans cut on. The fans actually cut off, and that's due to my new Koyo dual pass radiator. The actual fans were already like flowing 4,000 CFMs, but with the traditional style radiator, it wasn't cooling and cutting off and cutting back on. This is the first time. I'm super stoked. About to pull it on the street. Hopefully it won't break down on me. So right there, I just brake boosted it a little bit. They say hold it like 2,000 RPMs. Put your foot on the brakes, give it a little bit of gas, and what that do is allow the turbo to spool up to kind of push the rings out. We'll see how good it works. I'm just gonna cruise it for about an hour if I can make it without breaking down. I hit about 0 pounds of vacuum right there. And I see my AFRs hit 10, so I know I'm gonna have to pull a little fuel out on top end. But we ain't worried about that. We're trying to break this motor in. I also need to play with my torque converter lockup also. So just got to fine tune a few things. Let's check over the car real quick. Fans cut off. Don't see anything leaking. Everything looking good. So we're gonna keep driving it. I'm brake boosting it. Right now I'm doing a nice little long decel. Supposedly that helps cool down the rings. You don't want to put too much heat to the rings and then not let them cool off. So that's what I just did. Pull up here and see if we can make a left. Give it moderate throttle. Hopefully it won't stall out because I haven't messed with my idle yet. Good. I forgot to film an outro, but on the next episode, we're gonna do more driving in this turbocharged V8 powered 240. Check me out on social media.